It's time for another UNC football recruiting podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're checking us out on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is our Director of Football Recruiting, Miss Deana King, who spent Sunday 6 long, very hot hours on the artificial turf in Matthews, North Carolina on Sunday. Deana King was there. Also, our videographer, Kevin Roy, was also on hand for the VTO Elite 100 camp. There was a couple of Carolina commits were there, Ra Dilworth and Dontavius Nash, and several other significant targets that have Carolina offers. So, Deana, let's kind of dive into the camp, what you saw. We're going to focus on more on the non-committed kids, and we've got a separate podcast coming up about Ra, because Ra deserves his own podcast. But just your thoughts in general from some of the kids you saw. Let's start with Malachi Hamrick.
Well, there were 180 kids there, and they were from all over the United States, from the East Coast, branching out. There was even a kid come from Utah, and he had a great camp, won the DB award. Hamrick comes from Shelby, perennial powerhouse. Think they're going for another state championship we get to play this year. I love his frame. He's all, when I've talked to him, he's always he's in this DE linebacker, outside linebacker frame. Of course, at the high school level, a 6'2", 195 defensive end at a 2A school, that's pretty common. And I found it interesting that he came to this camp and he wanted to improve his linebacker skills. And the group-wise, I do think the linebacker position group at this camp was the strongest because of the type of kids that were there. But Malachi, a great kid to talk to. We ran his article a little bit earlier this week. Good kid. He's got great frame. He's kind of long. He can, if he does get out in that outside linebacker position, can gain some weight, some muscle, and he moves really good. He's kind of a quiet type, but I really liked what I saw in his drill work and his coverage skills there at the camp.
There are a lot of different reasons kids go to these camps, especially a summer like this when, the other networks, Rivals, 247, didn't have a lot of their camps because of the pandemic. This one, the first really big one that we've seen in North Carolina in a while. And for a lot of these kids, some want to go there just for exposure. They want someone to see them. Some go there just to compete. Some go there because they've been cooped up for several months. They just need to get out and be with guys and sort of get the feeling of normalcy. And others want to improve. I was really impressed with your interview with Hamrick when he said he wanted to get better at linebacker. He wanted to get linebacker reps, focus that day on linebacker, said he wants to play more linebacker this season in high school if there is a season. And that tells me that even though he's just a rising junior, this kid is very mission-minded.
Yeah, you mentioned the heat. It was up in the upper 90s, and of course, playing on the turf, it's going to make it a few more degrees hotter. And to be out there competing for 6 hours when they're probably not used to doing stuff like that, it was a credit to these kids to be out there. And it sure made an impact on me of these kids' desire for competition.
Another class of 2022 kid who fairly recent UNC offer from Greenville Rose High School, Michael Allen, a running back. He's been picking up some offers late. Things are really starting to pick up for him. What did you like about him on Sunday, and what did you learn about him on Sunday?
I enjoyed talking to Michael. Great kid, comes from a good family. He's also a dual athlete. He's an excellent baseball player. And in our interview, he did mention that he had been on campus at UNC for baseball wise. So, that may be interesting twist with Coach Fox and Coach Brown may do some work there, some cooperation on Michael because, being a great baseball player, and everyone knows UNC has a great baseball program as well. But, I got to watch Michael go through his drills, and he's got great speed. He done the drills really great. He's comes out of the backfield real good. And, he's just a really good, versatile back for UNC. And he thinks the world of Coach Gillespie.
Mac had a few football players that also played some baseball during his first run at Carolina. If I remember correctly, Mike Morton, linebacker, played some baseball. Dre, a little bit of baseball player. I'm drawing a blank here. Curtis Goodwin, I think, was a dual sport guy, and fast dude that Mac brought in as well. So there is certainly a history there with that. Rico Walker, we caught up with him last week, ran a piece on him over the weekend, and then, of course, you talked to him on Sunday, got to see him in person. Kevin was blown away that he's 15 years old and looks like he's ready to step on a college field right now. In your interview with him and in watching the ISO video that Kevin shot, he's extremely impressive in a lot of ways. It's not just the athlete thing, not just the football thing. He's just an impressive young man.
Yeah, he's an impressive 15-year-old and 6'4", around 220, and he was just I told you, when I like a kid, I'll start texting and tweeting you about it. I was really impressed with Rico. Everything about him, from the interview, his demeanor. He listed as an athlete because he could probably play several positions, and he wanted to play offense that day, and went with the wide receiver group and did really well. Had some cramping issues, which a lot of kids did in the heat and trying to stay hydrated. But I mean, he's still growing, and I could see him. I could see him playing that hybrid for Coach Bateman. I mean, I think that he was just a perfect frame, body wise, and he's got great demeanor and stuff. And like he's a 23 class of 23. He's just starting to get offers. I feel like after a few more performances that he did this past Sunday, that offer list is going to start growing. Currently, he has UNC in South Carolina. His dad played at Auburn, so he's got good bloodlines. And so Rico Walker is definitely going to be a name for UNC recruiting fanatics to keep an eye on up there in Hickory High School.
He told us that Carolina right now is looking at him a linebacker, but said that they would watch him at wide receiver in the fall, assuming that there is a fall season. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as well. And I know that he would like to have an opportunity to run some routes in front of a lot of these college coaches, because all kids they all want the ball in their hands in the end. Albert Red, a friend, a buddy, a pal of Rara Dilworth, was also there. And I know that there was some excitement on Rara's part when Albert agreed to go ahead and go to the camp. And you were articulating that to me last week. So tell everybody about Albert Red. I think he's probably a fairly new name on the radar for a lot of Carolina football recruiting fanatics. So tell everybody about Albert Red, what you saw and what you learned from him and talking to him.
Well, he's another good kid. Very, very excited when he got the UNC offer, because it was his first, and he has nothing but great things to say about the coaching staff and Coach Brown. And I even asked him, about, his current teammates with Rara and Javari Ritzky, who's already committed to UNC. And of course, they're in his ear about UNC, but you can see just a smile when he talked about UNC. And I really think UNC is already going to be in great shape UNC is going to be one of the favorites with him because, he said in the interview it's the first place he's going to go when things open up. For him on the field, he just looks like a linebacker. He's got the shoulders, his physique. I watched him a lot because he was always me and Kevin kind of kidded with each other. It's like Rah and Albert were connected to the hip. They wanted to do drills together. They were right there back and forth. You might have seen on Twitter that they're doing all these prep work on their own with their trainers. And Albert has that vertical jump just like Rah. Now, Albert's a little bigger than Rah, but, he's got great – I've watched his skills on when they've done some one-on-ones. He takes really good angles, and I like his speed and versatility. He could possibly play either the inside and the outside linebacker position.
The Kernersville connection. You got two. Maybe he's the third one, and I guess we can officially call that the Kernersville connection. A couple of committed Tar Heels were on hand at the VTO on Sunday as well. Dontavius Nash, and of course we've already mentioned Rah Dilworth. We're going to close for a few seconds with Rah. So jump into Dontavius. I know you just saw him a few weeks earlier at 7-on-7 down in Rock Hill. So what were your thoughts on Dontavius? I know you didn't do an on-camera interview with him, but you did speak with him.
Well, Dontavius, he's everything's still on good with him. He told me before the camp that this tells me a lot about Dontavius, about a competitor he was. He kind of tweaked his groin the day before, but he said, Miss King, I'm still coming to this camp to compete. And he started with a camp and kind of aggravated a little, and he set out for a while, but the competitor in him, when it come down to one-on-ones and 7-on-7, he said, I'm going back out there. And he did really well. He even he showed why he's a great athlete, because he was on defense at defensive back, and then he ran with the wide receivers. So he made some great catches there. So and like a lot of these kids, current UNC commits was doing recruiting, when they get together camps. Him and Rah was in around Malachi and around Albert, and let's not forget and Michael Allen. Let's not forget Bryson Nesbitt showed up, but he didn't compete. He just come there because the camp course was in his area. Nesbitt's from South Meck, and we were in Matthews, and I found it very interesting that Rah left the field where he was competing when he saw Nesbitt and come up, patted him on the back, said, hey, as well as Dontavius Nash. So Rah-Rah's always going to be, I love his name, Rah-Rah. That's his personality. He wanted to make sure that he said something to Bryson.
I think Rah-Rah likes his name too. You got, when you're near you, but right, you don't even have to pronounce that. Doesn't even matter. No one ever calls him that. It's Rah-Rah. Your name is Rah Dilworth. You've got to be just oozing with personality, and he clearly does. We're going to have a separate podcast about him, because I know that you really have a nice thing going with him. You care about him a lot, and he's such an amazing personality. So we're going to hit on that in a separate podcast. Any other final thoughts from the VTO 100? Maybe share with everybody a couple of the former Tar Heels that were there helping out and doing some coaching.
Well, VTO Sports, they always like to get former players, and a few that were helping in the camp was Ryan Houston, who played running back for UNC, and still, a lot of people might not recognize him because he looks like he could still play right now. Now, when he played at Carolina, he was a big dude, but he is like rock solid chiseled now. Looks like I took a few pictures. I think Kevin took a few pictures. He looked like he could still run the ball now. Quan Sturdivant, who was an outstanding linebacker for the Tar Heels, was a quarterback in high school at West Stanley and converted to linebacker. He had a chance to coach the linebackers, so he had a good chance to work with Ra and Albert and Malachi and the rest of the linebackers. Alric Mullins, who a good defensive lineman for the Tar Heels, he was there. Greg Ellerby, a former Tar Heel, was there working the camp. So there's been a lot of guys that have stepped up and tried to help these youngsters, all these youngsters, get better and prepping them for these combines and to possibly get to the next level.
Awesome stuff, my friend. You and Kevin did a great job there Sunday. 6 hours in 95-degree heat and standing on artificial turf. I salute you. All right, for Deana King, this is Andrew Jones. You've been watching another UNC football recruiting podcast right here at TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're checking us out on YouTube, our channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, don't hesitate to go over to TarHeelIllustrated.com and check out all of our coverage on UNC football, basketball, and recruiting for both sports. Thanks for stopping by.